What's going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for logging in, whatever the case may be. Thank you for joining us here today on Out the Cage. I am your host, Frederick Cager, and today we're going to be talking about a subject that I believe is very important. I'm honored with the two guests that we have here today. We're going to be talking about, we've seen what's going on with the dismantling of the Department of Education, and we've also seen what's going on with the removal of DEI programs when it concerns certain employers. We have major people. We have Amazon, Google, Meta, Target, Walmart, Lowe's, PepsiCo, McDonald's, all of these major companies are removing their DEI programs. And we just want to talk about this today. And we're going to be talking about not only the dismantling of the Department of Education, but just how education right now, how it's viewed, especially with minorities. As me being African American and our guest being African American, we're going to talk about that. So today we've got two very distinguished, and they on, when I say they on the run, they on the run. They got about 22 children between them, so they got to go pick up kids, and we move, and I'm grateful for them being here today. First of all, we have Dr. Lisa Morris Hibbler. I want to make sure.
That's correct.
All right, Dr. Lisa Morris Hibbler. She is a vanguard leader dedicated to creating positive change and addressing the challenges faced by underserved communities. Dr. Morris Hibbler is a distinguished executive who spent nearly 27 years with the city of Las Vegas, Nevada. Currently, she is the managing partner and co-founder of JBM Strategic Partners and a professor of practice at UNLV. Recognized for her impactful contributions, she's received multiple accolades, including the 2024 African American Trailblazer Impact Award. Congratulations.
Thank you.
The 2021 Woman to Watch of Nevada Business Magazine, and the 2021 Woman Inspiring Nevada Honoree by Vegas Inc. Dr. Morris Hibbler holds a degree from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and the University of Laverne. It is Laverne, correct?
Yes.
All right, University of Laverne. And the graduate certificates from Michigan State University, Georgetown University, and beyond her professional endeavors, she cherishes her role as a wife, because I know that, because I got to hurry up, because she got to go pick up her babies. Her wife as a wife and a mother. With exceptional leadership skills and a commitment to community betterment, Dr. Morris Hibbler continues to make a lasting impact. What's going on, fam?
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
You better stop with this.
I'm like,
you know what I'm saying? Good afternoon. Now, I just talked to her 10 minutes ago. Yeah, what's up now? No, I was just playing with her. I'm playing. Also, we have now, these are sisters.
Correct.
And both AKAs.
Absolutely.
Ski week. All right.
Whoa.
All right. So this is Miss Crystal L. Morris Harry, correct?
Correct.
Is an award-winning and certified executive human resource professional with over 25 years of experience driving HR innovations and aligning talent management strategies with organizational goals. As a manager of organizational development and training for the city of Las Vegas, Crystal leads large-scale organizational strategies that boost productivity through training and development and employee wellness. Crystal holds an MBA from the University of Phoenix, certificates as a senior professional in human resources, and specialized training in diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI. That's why she's here. She is also a certified executive coach. Beyond her technical expertise, Crystal is a passionate advocate for employee development, ensuring that individuals at all levels feel empowered to advance their careers. She continues to shape the future of HR with a focus on innovation, strategic collaboration, and fostering high-performance teams. Ladies, hello.
Hello.
Thank you for being here.
We're excited to be here. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited for the conversation.
I'm excited for the conversation as well. Now, so in putting my notes together and reading through both of your bios, I was impressed by just the hunger for education. You could see it. And I just wanted to ask before we dive, for both of you, where did the hunger for education? Because now I have my thought because I met your dad,
right?
And we'll talk about that. But where did the hunger for education come from?
Well, I think for me, you hit it head on. It was basically from our parents, specifically my dad, probably more so because he grew up in the Jim Crow South. And he wasn't afforded the opportunity to start school until he was around 12. His parents were sharecroppers. So for us, it was always education, and understanding the importance of education and how that was what would get you on your path. Mm-hmm. And we never lost sight of that. I tell people all the time, y'all reading it in a book and we live in it, because my dad, that was his actual experience. We didn't have to read it in a book. And so we knew the importance of education from him. He always talked about it, not only to us, but to the grandkids and to anybody else that would listen.
I think when you grow up in Pigeon Creek, Alabama, you don't know what you're capable of. So my dad being able to go into the Air Force and serve in this country for 25 years and being able to experience the things that even as he was trying to protect and serve our country that he was still facing, it made it important for him to tell us that there are things that you girls will encounter, but an education is something no one can ever take away from you. So make certain that you get your education. And from that love of education, we decided we would become lifelong learners.
Right.
And so every year we have a learning goal. Every single year.
Every year you have a learning goal.
A learning goal.
Please explain.
So every year it's what can we learn new? What can I do to continue to learn and shape the future of the next generation that's coming behind me? And I can only do that if I'm staying current on what's going on in the world. So this past year, I took 5 certifications.
She did.
She took 1.
She wasn't going to wear me out.
I sure tried, though. So I took 5 certifications because it's important.
Wow.
Not only that, I'm trying to show my children what I need them to do when they get into the workforce. Never stop learning. Because if you get into the unfortunate circumstance of having to a layoff or reduction in force, if you have a skill set that you continue to grow, you'll be more likely to be able to land on your feet. And so that's what it is for me. It's a couple of different facets, right? But this one, oh wait, we're also learning how to speak Spanish.
Right. Yeah.
Why?
And I think our kids seeing us
see
learn,
it.
that makes them want to learn. Like, right now our kids are in a program. They've been in there for
5 months.
about 5 months learning
It's
the market. Learning
The stock market.
stock market and investing, and it's an investment program that was put on by 100 black men. And if we see any program we think they should be in, we will sign them up, and then also spread the word so that we can get other kids in those programs. But our kids understand the importance of those skill sets, and we even talk to them like, we're paying for Spanish, but you guys can learn Spanish in school. We wish that we could have learned Spanish in school and that we had stuck with it, and now we're coming back to it. But it's really important, as Crystal said, that we continue to add to our toolbox, and we tell people that all the time, that we coach, that we mentor, that we talk to about why it's important to continue to grow and be a lifelong learner.
You know what? At this very moment, and I'm talking directly to anybody and everybody that's watching. Go ahead. What you need? What?
I'm like, you got something on your face right here.
Go ahead, dude.
Well, thank you. Thanks,
Bob.
it's
Yeah,
cool.
all right, sorry.
No problem.
All
This is real conversation, and one of the things I express, this is just real.
Mm-hmm.
At this very moment, I'm moved to tears because we wanted to do just a podcast and we're going to talk. I sincerely hope and pray that somebody's watching this and it changes their life, because just these first few minutes for me are life changing, because we don't, especially, and let's put the cards on the table. We don't see a lot of this in our community right now. In meeting your dad, and I can say this in meeting your dad, there's a difference between being elderly and being an elder.
Mm-hmm.
We have plenty elderly people, but we don't have a lot of elders.
Yeah.
And in meeting your dad, immediately I knew your dad was an elder.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say elder, I'm talking about growing up in Memphis, Tennessee, where when someone saw me in the neighborhood doing wrong, that knew my mom,
Right.
I'm gonna tell you. And so when I talked to your dad, immediately I heard the elder in him. He talked to me about Alabama. He talked to me about the Air Force and how he was treated.
Mm-hmm.
And I could hear in his voice that we had elders that at one point they made sure that, and I see and I hear with both of you, the mantle has been picked up, that we're going to make sure our children understand the importance, because this is a relay race.
Right. Absolutely.
And I hear for both of you and I hear that like that's important.
It's very important. We have a very much of a village mentality. So anything that we hear about that we think can impact our youth in a positive way, we'll go pick up kids. I've talked with my daughter's friends about what's available to them. Even just something as simple as Nevada State High School, which allows kids to get their associate's degree and their high school diploma at the same time. That means you're 2 years ahead of your peers because you've now graduated with that associate's degree.
Wow.
Yeah.
And let's just say I decide I don't want to go on for more education. You have something, you have a degree under your belt, right? And so when we're looking at our kids, it becomes really important for us to impress upon them as well as others who don't know. Because I can only take you as far as I've experienced, right? So if I've experienced high school, but I don't understand what it looks like to go to college, but I have a kid who would like to go to college, let me take you under my wing and show you what it means. Let me show you how you sign up through the admissions office. Let me show you what scholarships are available to you. Those types of things we have to do for ourselves as well as our community. Because sometimes our kids, they have all the potential in the world.
They
Absolutely.
don't have
No
access.
one
Yeah.
Absolutely.
access is a big one, right?
Absolutely.
And we were talking about that on the way. You know, since we knew we were coming on the show, we've been thinking through what this means, and even about just the overall context of what we're seeing right now in terms of the dismantling of the Department of Education or the rollback of DEI or the book banning and all that. And I told my sister, I said, you know, it's really to me we've lost a sense of ourselves.
Absolutely.
We were taught that we don't rely on the institution to do for us what we should do for ourselves.
Absolutely.
That's how we were taught. And so when I hear these things, I'm like, well, you know, we are accustomed to not having our books in libraries. Remember, we had separate but equal, so we were accustomed to that. We didn't rely on that. We had access to books the way we needed to have access to books. A lot of that stuff was passed down. We talked about, you know, how we preserved our culture, and that wasn't. We didn't necessarily rely on institutions to preserve our culture. We did that, right? We had the family Bibles. We had other artifacts that were passed down. We had Crystal was talking about the oral histories.
elders.
We had that, the elders, right? So for me, I question why we are so upset right now. It's like it's misdirected. It's misguided. We need to get back to who we are as a people.
Okay.
And
Let
I
me
know
put
this
my
might not
notes
be
down.
popular, but this is where we are. And this is, you know,
Yes.
we need to get back to that. And so I see a lot of us have moved away, whereas we've remained grounded. So if I see a child that needs some extra supports, even if I can't do it myself, I will connect that child with somebody who can. And we better learn real quick that the responsibility lies with us. That if we are going to transfer our power to put that in somebody else's hands, we've already lost.
How we became, and I wasn't going to go here, but I'm going to go here. How we became connected. I served as a counselor and chaplain with the passing of your father.
Yeah.
And immediately when we met, there are times when you meet people, there's this saying that I'm starting to really, and I don't know about you guys, I was raised in a single parent home. I didn't know the importance of having the right people in your life. I really didn't know it until now, getting older in my 50s. And then too, as a pastor, your goal is I got to be there for everybody, and I'm loving everybody. And for me, I often say this, when I got saved, I got stupid because I was so focused on being a good Christian that I would see things in people, but overlook it. Because now I get that, I can see stuff in you and love you.
Sure.
And still know that's who you are, and not put you in my circle, and love you. And just when we met, immediately we didn't have to have the conversation, but there was okay, they get it. And there are times when you meet people and you know, okay, they get it. What is it right now in our community why do you think we're in such a place where there is no deeper thought on the next, like what you just said, the passing of the baton and the raising up of the community and being self-sufficient? And I think about Black Wall Street and all of these things.
Absolutely, yeah.
Why do you think that we're in such a deficit? And this is just my personal opinion, that especially in the African-American community, we're not taking upon that role. Dr. King makes this statement. He says, with freedom comes responsibility. That's why most people choose to be a slave. Why do you think, in your opinion, we're not seeing the exertion of the responsibility in our communities?
I think for me, and first of all, I want to acknowledge all the people who are like us, who are out there doing what needs to be done. I want to acknowledge those individuals.
Absolutely.
I just want to say that there's opportunity for us to do far greater than we're doing right now. I also think that with chaos and crisis comes opportunity, because it forces you sometimes to do the things that maybe you weren't going to do. I think the number one thing that we have working against us is complacency. Many of us have, quote unquote, made it, whatever that looks like. And we feel like, okay, well, I think we're okay. No, the there's always opportunity for us to do more. If you look at home ownership, if you look at our economic outcomes, if you look at all those indicators, we're not doing as well as we were doing when we had quote unquote less, right? When we were in the Jim Crow days, when we were doing all that. And so I think complacency is one of those factors. I think we have also forgotten that we have to constantly be in the grind and trying to move an agenda forward. We don't really have an agenda right now, in terms of the African American economic empowerment. Like, what does that agenda look like? And so I have a circle of people that I've been talking to where we were like, man, we have forgot about how to co-op. We have forgot about how to build coalitions. We have forgot about how to do all those things that we know worked, because those were the strategies that we used. And so I personally think that we're in a place where it's going to force us to start doing those things again so that we can have, better economic outcomes, for the future. And we'll have to do that because as our numbers, as a population continues to go down and other minority populations get larger, our voice, if we don't use it now, when will we use it?
I was shocked. You know what I was shocked about in doing research? African American population has been at 12% for like the last 20 years.
20 years, that's right.
We've been at 12%. And I've seen Hispanic population numbers increase, Asian population increase. Yeah. Everybody's numbers are increasing, but it appears that with the African American community, our numbers are not increasing. And that, I think that begins to play a part in what we're seeing right now, because we're seeing, like I said, the lack of elders and things of that nature. When it concerns in us moving forward, what do you think we need to do?
I think it's a lack of collaboration as well, right? Because if I struggled and I got it out the mud, then you should be able to struggle and get out the mud too. But that's not the playbook that everyone else is using. Everyone else is saying, okay, I made it. Let me give you a foundational roadmap to how I got there. Let me help you. What you do with the help that I give you, right? But let me at least give you a foundational understanding of how I got to where I am. Because what you see today is a successful woman. You have no idea that.
You know what I've been through.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't know that we grew up in Adelanto, California. A lot of people don't even know what that is.
I don't know what it is.
We grew up in a rural California.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep, in the high desert, Southern California.
I went to Cali to see somebody, and I'm driving through, and it's like, this little hick town's in California? I would have never, I'm not talking about your.
Well, we did grow up in that little hick town.
I ain't talking about your.
But it's okay. It's all right.
I didn't know Cali had,
it does.
like Mississippi.
Sure it
Yes.
does. It does.
Yeah.
So when you see the successful women that are sitting here with you today, you don't know my story, our story, right? And so it becomes important for us to be able to have an authentic conversation and collaborate. But my one rule is, if I'm hustling harder for you than you are for yourself,
I can't roll with you.
You're right, absolutely.
I'm not doing
I'm one of them. If I can't, and I had to learn that the hard way. I can't want for you what you don't want for yourself.
Right?
That's exactly it.
And I'm pushing harder than you are. And I look up a year, 2, 3 has gone by in my life, and you're still not trying to push forward. When you talk about collaboration, I know look, man, I could talk to y'all for hours.
I want to take a step back, if you don't mind, to what you were talking about with the schools. And I think this is one of the opportunities missed and where we got to get back. So you talked about having schools from pre-K to 12th grade. Right. And I know when we first moved out here, our younger sister was in a school. It was called Operation Independence. And it was 2 or 3 African-American women that had their own daycare center, and they were raising, literally teaching these kids what they needed to know. Not what they needed to know to be on grade level, but literally what they needed to know to be above grade level. Teaching them the reading skills, all these different things, etiquette, how you act. I mean, all these different things. And I think back to some of the complacency, I believe, comes from apathy and hopelessness. And when it comes to our young people, I'm starting to see that hopelessness move in at a younger and younger age. So now, seeing it instead of high school, seeing it more in middle school, where there's just no path forward, or at least no path forward that the young person sees. And too many of our kids just kind of are going through the motion, And out here in particular in Las Vegas, I mean, we see African American students doing worse than students that are emergent language learners. Okay, that means that students that are in the school district that don't speak English are doing better than our African American students. And I really encourage people, like, we have to get involved. We have to advocate. We have to demand what we want to see for our children, what we want to see for their future. And it is no doubt that the third grade benchmarks oftentimes are the best predictors of how a student is going to do.
That's how they judge the prison
That's
system
how they
numbers.
have, yes. And so the reality of it is that if we know that, and we're looking at a lot of our students are not even on par in the third grade, and we look at those cohort graduation rates, that's a problem, right? And it's not just here.
It's because even in Memphis we had, but do me a favor, because someone's watching this, and I just tell us your background and why you can speak to this, because a lot of times people hear people talking, but they don't understand. No, I've been in the system. I've seen this firsthand. I've been involved. So what is your background that speaks to this?
Yeah, so I was in local government for almost 3 decades, and most of that time I was doing education policy and for the mayor and council, and at the city of Las Vegas did a lot of education programs that we put in place, from pre-K to before and after school programs, and a lot of the policy work, working with local school districts and to really trying to move the needle for our kids. And so I can say that because that's what I'm seeing. I also am a huge advocate. I work with kids in foster care. I'm a court-appointed special advocate. I'm an educational advocate, certified educational advocate. So in those capacities, I'm definitely seeing exactly what I'm speaking to. And I know that we have to do better by our kids. Like, we cannot continue to sit by in a passive state and watch generation after generation of children not get the education that they need, especially when, as of right now, we're in the technology age. And, we're still talking about the digital divide. We should not still be talking about the digital divide.
That was in the 80s.
Right. I mean, there should be no reason for us to have a digital divide, yet we do. And you and I, and, all know. Right now, if you don't know technology, I mean, what's your future? Yeah. Right? And so there's just a lot that we can do. And like, I always go back. I'm like, if my dad born in 1933, he didn't go into the military till I think like 53 or 1953. But if he didn't start school until he was 12, because he had to tend to the children that were on the field, because sometimes my grandfather had to work. He had to leave Alabama, Pigeon Creek, Alabama, to go someplace else to work. And so that left a lot of my grandmother and other women were back there tending the fields. If he could, basically teach himself to read, catch up, so that he could go into the military, right? I'm thinking to myself, what's our excuse?
None.
I mean, I'm just asking.
Absolutely.
What is our excuse for the fact that our children aren't doing better than they are? And a part of it is that we're not putting that same effort into it. We're not making sure, as Crystal talked about with the village, we're not making sure that there's wraparound services, after school programs, that we are calling people out when we need to call people out. We want to call people out on silly stuff, but we're not calling people out on the stuff that matters, and that's an important part.
Okay, it's ironic you brought that up. I'm podcasting and all, and you'll look on social media, and I'm like, y'all talking about all of that.
Right.
Wow, all of
the
this
silly stuff,
is
right?
Going,
yeah,
it's like and we're at that point now. We want to gossip about everybody's life,
right?
And I'm like, man, we got this over here going on right in front of our face. Yep. So the DEI situation, and I don't know why I want to read this, but when it concerns, and this is a point, given the personal economic benefits of completing college, degree attainment is often thought of as an individual benefit. However, these personal economic advantages result in large social benefits as well, such as increased tax revenue, less reliance on public assistance programs, increased levels of educational attainment, are associated with less crime, incarceration, better health, more volunteerism, and so on and so on and so on. And we can't even talk about that with a college degree, the level of finances that you earn more than a high school diploma.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
I think what's concerning me right now, you talk about the youth. Number one, I think it's a multiplicity of things. In working in the court system and working with juveniles, number one, we don't have the elders, we don't have the parents. So we got a lot of young people that don't get the guidance. With you guys, you had a mother and a father that put that in you. We have a generation now that there's nobody. I remember working at juvenile court, and I worked at an all-boys program. And what blew me away on visitation day, there were no men. It was grandmothers, and mainly it was grandmothers that were there for these young boys. So we got a generation, number one, there's no one telling them this is the direction you need to go. Number two, and this is what I see now everybody wants the quick, fast, everybody wants to be a YouTube star.
Absolutely.
A reality
Influencer.
star,
Yeah.
influencer, a rapper.
Sure.
And they're not looking at the long haul.
Mm-hmm.
Crystal, tell me what do you, in your opinion, we're seeing with this, in the sense what you say with the youth and the village. But I don't like that term devil's advocate, so I'm not gonna do that. I get the village, but it's almost like now the village is breaking down. And I just want to be direct with you guys. God has dealt with me about something. Everybody doesn't have what I have. Everybody doesn't get what I got.
Right.
So everybody doesn't have the mom and the dad. Where are we?
I think that it's just what you said. We have gaps in our own structure. So you have grandparents who are raising kids, and we say this all the time. The parents that we were raised with versus the parent that my younger sister was raised with.
Right. Not the same parent.
Not the same parent. Right. So
I
it's
called
some of
my
that.
mom about her name one time.
Yeah.
Swag, dead in the mouth.
Right.
I'm mama.
Like,
Don't you ever call me by my first
Because
name.
I'm not your little friend.
I'm not your friend.
right.
So it's some of that, right? It's parenting by legacy as well. So if I didn't have it, I can't give it. But I do want to say, to Lisa's point, there are plenty of organizations here locally in Southern Nevada who are out here doing the work. You have King of Jewels, who is specifically targeting young men of color. You have Distinguished
Chef Project.
Distinguished Gentlemen. Chef Jeff Project is a huge one. If you
Say that name
not
again.
know about the Chef Jeff
Henderson.
Project,
Okay.
Chef Jeff Henderson. If you don't know about Chef Jeff and what he's doing,
Okay.
Yeah. Second
Or-
chances. He's working with youth that are system impacted, youth in juvenile justice, homeless, etc., and showing them pathways.
Wow.
So then you have, for our young women of color, you have two organizations called Tulips. One is led by Christina Boone. The other is led by Venus Thomas and Tracy Valenzuela. So there are organizations that are trying to do what we can't do for ourselves. And when I say we, I put myself in there, because if we see somebody struggling, I can't tell you the amount of times we're like, listen, let's get some clothes, let's get some money, let's get some programming. Last week, I think it was, Lisa met with a young man, and she connected him with one of our frat brothers who also is a mentor. So we're doing the work to get these kids mentors so that they can see something different. Just because you don't know where it is, raise your hand and say, I don't know. And to me, I always tell people, if I raise my hand and I say I don't know, and somebody judges me for that, that says more about that person than it does about me. Right?
Absolutely.
But it takes a little bit of moral courage to even be able to say, regardless of who is riding with me or not, I'm going to raise my hand and say I need some additional assistance.
I need some help.
I need some help.
Yeah. And I am starting to see more investment. I mean, a friend of mine, Marcus Allen, who does
Raiders?
No, he's with Masterpiece Barbershop, but is starting to buy up properties in historic West Las Vegas, where he's born and raised in
That
Las
is
Vegas.
wonderful for me to hear.
Yeah, and he's doing that. I see other young developers that are trying to do that work, and so that's why I said I think there's a call to action.
Okay.
You know, folks are starting to wake up and remember, like, oh, wait a minute, I better get serious about this. We better get serious about what it looks like for us, and we better not be waiting on somebody else to do it for us.
I think too, Pastor, when you talk about, we keep hearing all of this DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. Let's be real clear about who DEI has impacted in the most positive way.
White women.
White women. Hasn't been us. And I'm constantly saying, you can call it what you want to call it, but it's happening all around us. The world is going to continue to change. You don't have to give it a name. We're going to continue to do the work. And that's what I want us as a people not to lose sight of. All this chaotic noise is just that. It's external noise.
Absolutely.
that doesn't even matter at the end of the day. Stay focused on what matters most to us, making certain that the generations who are coming behind us have the skills and tools necessary to be successful. That's really what it boils down to.
When you talk about DEI, and I'm a logical thinker. Okay, that's just it's been a blessing and it's been a hurt sometimes. But I'm a very logical thinker. I know we talk about Caucasian women are the biggest benefactors of the DEI program, but, and I say but because but cancels out. But here's my logic: we as African Americans are only 12% of the population. Caucasian women are 37, 36% of the population. So just naturally, because I hear people talk about, well, we don't really need DEI because white women benefit more anyway. Well, naturally, they're going to benefit because they're more numbers wise. Just the numbers. If we as a race are only 12% of the population, and then white women, no, you're good. And then white women are 36, 37% of the population. And this is just my opinion. For me, I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
The way I view DEI is this. I view DEI like the speed limit. Yeah, okay, I got a heavy foot. I ain't gonna play with you. Every now and I'm moving. But I look over there and I see 55.
Right.
And that 55 lets me know, you good?
It's a little hot.
You hot.
It's a little warm. It's a little warm.
Is it really? Okay.
Yeah.
Really?
I'm not warm.
You not warm? You got some water? Get you.
Got my little juice. I got
Go
my
ahead, do
little
your
juice.
thing.
But I don't even focus on that. What I try to tell people is be careful about, again, relying on labels and associating label with the fact that the action is behind it.
Yes.
We tend to get sucked in to the fact of that. And I'm not saying that people didn't benefit from programs that were based on minority diversity supplier type programs. Don't get me wrong. What I'm saying is we need to be looking at the facts, and we need to be looking at what does it take. So for instance, in my world, I was not a quote unquote DEI hire. I worked over there for, almost 30 years, and my qualifications backed up why I had a seat at the table.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I didn't know anybody that looked like me that didn't have more qualifications than probably their peers. Okay. Mm-hmm. So that was not a DEI. And I think that it made it easy to target African Americans in a negative way, that we were all DEI hires, because that was the rhetoric, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why I tell people, I'm like, that's why I don't like labels in the first place. Mm-hmm. Just the bottom line is that we've always known, at least in my family, my dad was like, you always got to be better. You got to do this. So we never ever, that DEI conversation never crossed through our threshold. It just didn't, because I never heard my dad talk about any DEI. I mean, it was like, listen, here's what you got to do. And then even then, because my dad's experience, with his military, when he came up, and again, his career was in the 53 to 73, there was a lot of things that happened to him that didn't allow him to make it to his final rank. And my dad finally just said, my dad just finally said, listen, you guys are going to keep changing the goalpost. I'm going to go ahead and retire. Lots of people have that experience. Mm-hmm. So I just feel like, let's not necessarily focus so much on the DEI programs, but focus on what it takes for us to support Black business, what it takes for us to, when I see, and I mean, we make a commitment to support Black business, but what does that mean locally? What does it mean globally, nationally and internationally? How do we do that? And that goes back to some of the stuff you're talking about with Black Wall Street, where we had not only more focus, but more commitment to making that happen.
And when we talk about the DEI, and I'm totally in agreement with what you're saying, that's what I'm saying, that, okay, white women benefit more. Okay, cool. But somebody got help, so that's cool. We good. We just got to get out here and handle our business. Mm-hmm. We just got to get out here and handle our business. And like you said, I'm seeing a lack of, and it's good for me. And maybe and I'll be honest with you when I say this, maybe I'm a little jaded. Mm-hmm. I'm being very transparent when I say that. Because I've worked for years with my race and those, hey man, this is what we need to do. and we were talking before we started. As someone that pastored, it bothered me that, and I think we have the pie in the sky sometimes mentality in our community. And what I mean, that's not a blanket statement, but I'm saying, hey man, we got to get out and handle business.
Mm-hmm.
We got to get out and handle business. I think I've been hearing for years what we need to do, and I'm at a place in life where, you know what,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it.
Yeah. Rubber has to meet the road. Right. Yeah.
I'm not trying to convince y'all anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean? For years, I was trying to, and you look up, 5 years has gone by,
Mm-hmm.
you still trying to convince people.
Yeah.
Sure.
And do you inspect what you expect? Because here's what I'm gonna
say that again.
Do you inspect what you expect?
Please
And I want to
explain
say this because
Wow.
when the George Floyd happened, right, and there was a lot of riots and marches and all this, and all these companies started putting in these programs. And this is why I tell people, again, we're following the label. How many of the companies that said they were going to invest
Mm-hmm.
a certain amount of a certain percentage, if you buy here, we're going to invest this, how many of them invested it? And do we know? I mean, the reality of it is less than we think.
Right.
And that's why I say, I
agree.
mean, maybe my perspective on the DEI is not popular, and that's okay. I'm just saying, this is Lisa speaking from how I feel about it. If all you do is follow the label,
Yes.
then you really are not, you don't know if you're benefiting or not.
Right.
If you don't inspect what you expect. And what I'm saying is too many of us are like, yes, we got that. You know, this company said they're going to do this. This company said they're going to do that. And then behind it. So for me, I'd rather see the company that didn't jump on the bandwagon because they knew they weren't authentic about it in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's what I try to tell people. I'm like, if the company just wakes up today and says, oh, we are committed to this, but then they don't have any action behind it, then we just really got bamboozled, and let's just call it what it is.
Mm-hmm.
We got bamboozled. So we don't have to be. We are educated people. We should know who is committed based on how they do their business on a daily basis, not based on some sort of a national incident, not based on something else, but just because their core values speak and support that. And that's the part where I try not to get tripped up because I've seen it too many times where we've had some sort of an incident and everybody jumps on the bandwagon, but these folks are not sincere about it in the first place. So we shouldn't really be surprised when people, quote unquote, roll back.
Mm-hmm.
They're just, in my opinion, just being there
They're just
true self, right?
identifying.
Because it wasn't something they believed in anyway. They thought
wasn't their
that
core
it was
value.
pop. Right. They thought that was what they needed to do for the dollar.
Mm-hmm.
Because we do have power in the black dollar. I think folks are starting to remember the black dollar because we're spenders, right? So we know that. And now we can choose where we want to invest that black dollar.
I would say to anybody that the statement you just made and they don't get it, research the Montgomery boycott.
Yeah.
That is the quintessential fundamental. Okay, you don't want to let us ride on the bus? Okay, we'll walk.
Right.
And people, they came back and said, hey, we need to talk to y'all. Not because they wanted them on the bus,
No.
but the finances in the city
Right.
began to be so hurt.
Correct.
And Crystal, I see you chomping at the bit.
It's literally what we're experiencing with Target right now. So if you're listening to what Pastor Jamal has called for us to do as Black Americans in boycotting Target, now Target wants to come and talk to him. Well, why? Because of the financial impact, right? Because you now saw your stocks plummet. It's always financial. If you think about when the change comes.
I pulled up the Target 2 days ago and was getting ready to go in. It was like, oh man.
Yeah, you weren't supposed to be there.
Nah, I ain't go in.
Yeah.
I didn't go in.
That's good. Your whole body didn't shut down on you.
You know how, but it was just convenient. I need to run, and I pulled up like, oh no, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I
were
think
showing
what we
such
should be
change.
asking ourselves is how do we create mechanisms that help support and promote black owned businesses and minority owned businesses so that we can have other avenues for product to push our product to do all that. You know, we have always been innovative. You know, we're very creative as a people. but a lot of those structures are not in place that allow us to go outside of the confines of
Or what
like
we
this of what we have right now, and we got to get back to figuring out how we do that. So how do we have housing developers? How do we have entrepreneurs? How do we support that? Because we know that America is built on small business. So how do we do that? Like my sister and I, we created our own business, and we've helped other people to do the same thing. How do we continue to do those sorts of things? How do we help folks that have the technical expertise for products, but they don't have the business expertise? We have to get back to that.
as a former, and I'm not pastoring now, as a pastor, I want to say this directly to a lot of churches. Y'all, we got to do more than preach and sing. I won't say that. You gotta have business classes because you're the epicenter where a lot of
Absolutely.
people are coming,
Yeah.
and you've got to capture the audience. Why not? And I've always said this.
Mhm.
Why not have business skills? And yeah. We're going to teach you about the Holy Spirit. We're going to teach you about yes. We also need to teach economics,
Right.
empowerment. And Crystal, I was just excited. I didn't
Yeah.
mean to cut you off,
No.
but you were saying about even with the moves that are being made.
Sure. I just think that it's exactly what you're saying. We have the ability to support one another in a way that we haven't often done, or always done. So what I see is you might have a small business who will go to one of our one property. It's called Fin and Feathers out here. They have one in Atlanta. We love it. Black owned. The business, if Fin and Feathers does something on one day, that's not the best service that you received. You'll go out and you'll blast that place, but you won't say the same thing about Applebee's. So how are we making certain that we're giving
That's
our
true.
folks an
That's
opportunity,
true.
right? And why not pull them to the side and say, "Hey, did you know?" Or let me bring it to your attention. Most business owners want to know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that we have a new market on the west side in West Las Vegas? I messed up the name, but Tamika Henry is in charge of
Abodo.
Abodo Collective, right? You can go in there, you can get fresh fruit, vegetables. You don't have to go to Walmart. You can come right in your own neighborhood and shop. There's a lot that goes on in Las Vegas. What's the mechanism to get the word out to us that we can support our own community?
So let me throw this at you. Even in doing this podcast, let me give you the vision behind it, and I'm gonna tell you what my vision is and what my plan is. I'm not looking to do this just to do a podcast. My goal is this. This is what I envision. Get enough people to watch this and listen to it, and then to be able to say, "Hey, y'all, we can ready to go over in this community,
Okay.
and hey, there's a nonprofit that's set up. Everything there's accountants, so nobody getting over.
Yeah.
And we building this and we building that. We need y'all to support. And if you can't send $1, pray. This is what we're doing.
Yep.
Hey, and then bring people on here that we can get information out. And that's what I'm looking at. For me, this is so much bigger than because why would I first of all, I'm gonna say this, man, quit hating, man. Just look. And I'm gonna say this, look, man, I'm doing a podcast to bring information. I'm not doing clickbait. I don't care about all of that. I don't care about the comments about what they colors they got on. It's amazing to me. We sitting here talking about economic empowerment
Right.
and all of this. Somebody will make a comment, look at their colors. I'm like, seriously? That's what you saw?
So, right.
After all that,
After all of that. So
yeah.
my mindset is this. I don't have time for foolishness. We got to make so even in doing this podcast, why would I subject myself for you to talk about me? I could just stay low key and be happy. I'm doing this to say, look, man, let's make some power moves. I realize the importance of these platforms and these platforms that are out here now.
Yep.
What can we do? We can build schools. We can do so much. So getting back to education, what and something you said triggered something. We're educated and we're smart enough. And I'm gonna say something that may rub. I am very grateful to Bill Cosby. Me. Let me tell you why. A Different World and the Cosby Show changed my life because I was the little boy in the hood being raised by a single parent that didn't know black people even almost could even be that.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for A Different World, that would made me say, "Hey,
I want
man,
to call it.
I want
Right.
to go to school.
I want to go to
Yep.
college.
I want to go to college."
Yeah.
Now, this gets back. This is the cancel culture. That doesn't. I am not so ignorant and dumb that I can't chew the meat and spit out the bones. Bill Cosby, what he's been through or going through, okay, I acknowledge that. Sure. And by no means do I want to diminish anyone that has dealt with a situation concerning Bill Cosby. That does not negate what he did for me in 1985 I don't.
Or what the show
What
represented.
the,
What the
sh-
show
right, what the show
represented.
Yeah.
represents, right?
what the show represented.
Right.
So
Because we don't often see
absolutely.
us in those types of
You
roles.
had a doctor,
Yeah.
a lawyer, successful kids,
Right.
kids
Yeah.
going off to college.
It wasn't drinking, smoking, gang.
Two-parent household and
Two-parent
saying some
household.
of the same isms that we all
all
have
know.
faced in our own home.
They just played the episode yesterday with the Ray Charles when they did the anniversary. I remember everybody was
Yeah.
on the phone
Yeah.
all over America.
Yeah, I remember when Denise said she was grown.
was
She
grown.
wanted her,
Yeah, she was
wanted her money. What?
But with the episode, she wanted to get a car.
Yes.
All right.
That was it.
So I think, and I brought that up to say this, it almost appears to me in our community we've stopped thinking, and that's concerning to me. And once again, that's not a blanket statement, but
But it's so when we were leading up to this last political campaign, Project 2025 came out. It was a 900-page document. And so when we were talking about what Project 2025 represented and the dismantling of the Department of Education as well as other social programs, people weren't reading that. It was only 900 pages. But if I told you that Jay-Z or
Yeah.
whomever,
Yeah.
wrote this manifesto, or for lack of a better word, they would read that.
Or you would binge
you're-
watch.
You were yeah.
You might binge watch a show
Might
for
binge watch it,
for
right?
eight episodes
of foolishness.
at maybe an hour and 20 minutes, and that would be okay. And it's really about how we choose to spend our time.
That's it.
It's about how we choose to spend our time. There's a lot of scrolling going on. And don't get me wrong, I scroll too, but I'm also investing my time in other things that I know where that return on investment is.
Sound like
I know,
reclaiming my time.
right, reclaiming my time because I know,
I tell people you can waste my nickel,
Yeah.
you can waste my dollar, but don't waste my
waste my
time.
time.
yeah.
I can
You
get a
know, I
dollar
know
back.
that if I'm invested in myself because
Yeah.
I'm taking a certification program or if I'm learning a new language or if we are doing some other type of program, that there's going to be a return on investment on that. And I know that if I'm just sitting at home doing nothing or worried about what somebody else is doing or looking at some other foolishness, that is not a good use of my time.
I want to say this because I don't want this to come across wrong. There's a scripture in the Bible that says open rebuke is better than love concealed. In essence, if I truly love you, I'm going to say, hey, Lisa, hey, Crystal, you that's not cool. You need to watch that. In our community, we've been said we don't air our dirty laundry. That's a thing that I grew up hearing. You don't talk about. So even when we talk about these type of subjects, someone will watch this and think, well, why you got to say that? Why you? And I think we've gotten to the point where things need to be said. And that doesn't mean that I'm berating my community or I've given up. I saw a video the other day and this young lady said something. I was like, that is so powerful. And I couldn't find it because I wanted to show it. African-American young lady, she said, in other communities, education and professionalism is the main thing. And ratchetness is is frowned upon. She said in our community we're getting to the point where the ratchetness is the main thing, and now professionalism and education is looked upon as the weird thing. And I know you know what? Let me say what I want to say. I know meeting you two, we are the pockets and we're subculture, but I'm looking at the main culture right now. I was in ATL a little while ago, and I was on a connecting flight. So I used to live in ATL, and I loved ATL. The first time I went to Atlanta, I was like, I'm moving here. I mean, literally, I was like, I'm moving here, and I moved there. And this young lady was telling me, she says, changed. And I was like, tell me how. She says, become Hollywood here now. She said the reality shows, and she was just breaking it down. She said, I'm thinking about leaving. And I was like, what? Not the ATL that I fell in love with. And it just seems like right now, I think that we've got to push. The reason why I'm doing the podcast too, I was like, man, I'm tired of all of this. I just can't. It's like we're rap. I'm from the hip hop.
Yep.
If you don't know, Crystal got bars. Just telling you, she got bars. What'd you say?
That's facts.
There go the camera right there. Tell them.
These are real facts.
She got
okay?
bars. She was busting bars before we got started to the point I was like, huh? I remember coming up listening to hip hop. We had De La Soul.
Yeah.
We had the Jungle Brothers. We had
Tribe Called Quest.
we had
That
balance.
conscious
Yeah.
music
We
too.
had,
Yeah.
There was a
right?
balance.
The
It
balance, right?
was.
We had NWA, but then we had
Diggable
Tribe
Planets,
Tribe
right? Yeah,
Called-
all
yeah.
of it. Yeah.
Now it's like everything is.
Sorry.
I don't mean no harm, and everything sound the same. I don't mean no harm. I'm old school hip hop. I'm just saying, and it's like there's no balance.
Yeah.
And that's in our kids' faces all the time.
All the
So
time.
as a parent of
Yes.
3 children, everything from the social media is one thing, but even some of the tools that they have to use, right? Because like I said, we're in a tech age. And so even if with the algorithms and all that kind of stuff, it's just feeding you more and more and more. I mean, and sometimes I haven't even searched something and it pops up in my feed, so I know it's listening. We have to also, which means that we have to undo
Yes.
now a whole bunch
Man.
of things that have been kind of singed into our kids' minds about what's right or what's going to get them to the next level, and then try to reseed
Mm-hmm.
the things that we know to be true, which is hard. That is a difficult
It is
thing to
hard.
do. And I see with my own kids where I'm like, nope, we don't act like that. We don't behave like that. No, don't wear that bonnet out the house. All I just had to say that.
Hold on. I was at Walmart the other day. I don't mean no harm, and I'm saying this with all seriousness as I look at the camera. As an African American man, it bothers me when I see black women, and I'm not being disrespectful. I just hold you on such a high standard. For me as a black man, and let me also say this because I want to say this. I had a black pastor to tell me this. I had another black minister accuse me of being racist, and it bothered me. And I was like, "What do you mean?" I've never been in an interracial relationship personally, and I couldn't be in one personally. And let me tell you why. It has nothing to do with another race. It has something to do with my race, and because I believe my race is at such a deficit that they need to see a black household. Now, that's not anyone that's married. Are you in an interracial relationship?
No.
Okay.
Well, let me just say this, and I love where you're headed. This conversation really only comes up for us because other folks, they expect it.
Expected to.
And nobody says the criticisms come when we talk about that. It's the same thing where the
thank you.
criticisms come when we start talking about how we need to have more African American economic impact.
I love you.
That is when we get the
We get
criticism. But I'm
criticized.
telling you, I see other communities right here in this community. I
Jewish-
see different
Jewish
communities that are doing it right now.
They feed only. I met, and I think I told you, I met with some Jewish builders. We were talking about doing some affordable housing, and they just ghosted me because it was like, nah, we're gonna deal with these people over here. And this black pastor accused me of being racist because I was like, no, that doesn't. I just believe, for me, the deficit that I see in my community, the lack of black men, the lack of black families. I feel, for me,
Yeah, you're making a conscious choice.
I'm a conscious choice to be a representative to let someone see. And this other black pastor said something to me that blessed me. He said, "Hey, man, just because you care about your race doesn't mean you hate others."
Oh,
That's it.
okay,
That's right.
And I can say unequivocally, and people who knew my dad knew this. My dad, again, I have to go back to 1933 Alabama, faced incredible racism and discrimination
He
because
told me.
that was all that was existed pretty much back then. And my dad would tell me about taking the meal down to the millman, and they were supposed to split it fairly, or taking the meat down to the butcher, and one of the workers would come and wipe meat on his lips to make it look like he ate it, and then they would take it. And then when the guy would come in and say, "Okay, did you get your meat?" The other guys looking at him like, and you knew you had to say yes, even though my dad didn't get the meat. Or coming back from fighting 2 wars. My dad was exposed to Agent Orange. That's why he, some of the medical problems he had was from that. And then coming back to America where he still wasn't treated as an equal. And never had hate in his heart. Never, ever had hate in his heart. My dad helped lots of people. Black, white, Latino, Asian. My dad almost was like a magnet for the underdog. So he saw somebody that needed help, he would always do that. And that's how he raised us. So anybody that would challenge us on any of that, I'd go toe to toe because my dad never ever raised us like that. And even when we were in our small town, my dad could not get into the local American Legion because he was black. They did
remember he
not
told me that.
open the door,
Yeah.
cracked it open.
Cracked it. Yeah.
And when we left, my dad was the commander.
I'm so glad that this conversation is being had because, and I want other people to understand that there is no, like, I got white friends, I got Filipino friends. No, it's just that you got to understand. For me, it bothers me to see my race, 12% of the population, but 60% of the prison population.
Oh, yeah.
That bothers
Right.
me.
Yeah.
It
Right.
bothers me when the average household in America is about, I think, 73, 75, but in the black community is about 27.
Yeah.
That bothers me.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so there is no hatred towards anybody else.
Yeah.
Just why would you not expect me if I see the people that I'm connected to that are going down, why would I not have empathy and
Yeah.
sympathy?
And it's
want-
unfortunate that we even have to have that type of conversation, but we do because
do.
somebody will take it out of context and say
will.
that because I've experienced that same thing many times when we're saying, hey, we need to have this in the African American, predominantly African American community. I mean, right here in Las Vegas, where we tried to reinvest in communities that have had disinvestment and intentional disinvestment, and then have to justify why you need to do investment in
the black
in that
community.
community. Yeah.
Wow. In your bio, your background is organizational development.
Correct.
And-
Organizational development, workforce development, career development. So, literally trying to help our people navigate career paths, right? So it's one thing to have a degree, but if you get a degree and there's not going to be a demand for that, then what exactly is it that you're doing? And everybody's not made for college, and I understand that. But so we really do a disservice when we don't talk about the trades.
Yeah.
So we have locals out here, Local 396, which is big with NV Energy, the Electrical Brother.
Yeah, IBEW.
IBEW, yeah, the Electrical Brotherhood Electrical Workers Union. But those are things that we should be looking at for our kids.
Certifications.
Certifications, especially if
Absolutely.
you're going into computer science, you don't all the time need a
medical
degree.
tech.
I was looking at
Yeah.
welders.
Medical tech,
Welders
like-
get $150 an hour for
I can tell you,
welders.
if
And that's
you
true.
have
Yeah.
somebody
My dad had a welder that worked for
He
him
did.
that was
right making that type of money. If
Yeah.
you have somebody who wants to be in the power production industry, you don't necessarily need a degree, but you do have to have some certification. And that's a six starting out, you're in the high 70s, 80s probably, but eventually when you get in really, really good, you're making six figures plus.
I'm so I know we got a time frame and I'm so happy that like literally that we're talking to you guys because it's like, and we may do a part 2 and I may ask you guys to come back because this is like so dear to my heart because and do you understand what I'm about to say when I say this? I've even found myself like taking a step back. And this, I needed this because you, after a while, you get tired.
get exhausted. Yeah.
Sometimes you start to question if you're doing it. Am I doing the right thing? Because I'm on this path by myself,
and
or at
that's
least
solo.
it feels like I'm by
And
myself.
and you need to, and you wonder because I've never thought like I'm crazy. It's just like, man, my thinking is different.
Sure.
And I'm thinking differently because okay, let me break this down. So I come from hustling. We didn't ask anybody's permission to do nothing. If we were going to do it, we were going to do it.
Right.
So when I came to God, to Christ, I brought that. And then once I got in the book, I was like, yo, you mean we could rule, dominate? And then once you study, you look at your elders from the Montgomery boycott and all of that.
They were doing it. Yeah.
They were making power.
With no internet,
With no
barely even
Facebook,
phone. They got the switchboard, and they still were making those
power
moves.
moves.
Yeah.
What? And I know you guys got to go, but what is it? Almost like there's this Malcolm X, the movie Malcolm X, Denzel. There's a scene in it where the gentleman who plays Elijah Muhammad, and he's got Malcolm, and he gives him a glass of water, and he pours ink in one glass, and he's got a clean glass, and he gives him the dirty glass, and he says the people will drink it if you give it to them, and then he takes the clean glass, and he says the people will drink it if you give it to them.
Sure.
So in essence, he's saying it's the leadership. Leadership has got to give people And I'm a firm believer that leadership is hard. It's not what it's I see it in you.
Yeah.
It's not what we presented. It's not cool. It's not glamorous. Even with Dr. King, let me be clear for those of you who don't know, Dr. King was not lifted up like he is today when he was alive.
He sure wasn't.
He was not, even in his own race.
Yeah,
Not at
right
all.
now.
Right.
He was not this glorious.
Right.
The man was stressed.
Yeah.
So leadership is not easy. It is not. What's the word I'm looking for? It's not. You're.
I mean, it's oftentimes lonely because you have to make.
Yes.
If you're doing it right, you're gonna make the tough decisions. So some people are not gonna be happy with what you're proposing.
Hard
And
decisions.
some people can't see
is.
the vision. I actually was just talking to somebody about this, and they gave me an analogy. And I said, oftentimes I'm way down the road. I can see I mean, I'd like to think it was a gift, except for oftentimes it's lonely because you can't convince people that what's coming down the road if they can't see it. It's hard to convince them to be there. And the person told me, yep, I use the analogy of the people that are in the basement and the people that are in the balcony. And visionaries, we're the people that are on the balcony. We can see way out. And the
see it
people
coming.
in the basement can't.
Right.
And you're trying, as a leader, you're oftentimes trying to bridge that gap. You're trying to pull those people along the way so that you can do that. So, yeah.
Well, listen, I know they have to go.
Yeah, I'm
They
like-
got babies to pick up.
sorry.
No, it's all good. We're gonna. Okay, I'm gonna put you on blast. Can I get a part two?
You could definitely get a
You can
part
get a
two.
part two.
You can get a part two.
Yeah.
I can get a
We're gonna
part
clear
two.
the calendar for you on the
We're gonna
part
clear the count on part
okay?
two.
Yeah.
Because I'm there's a you've heard make my baby leap and you know what I'm saying, and the meeting y'all is like, okay, yeah, there's some people out here that leave you with this. My wife used to be vice president of Bank of America business when we were in Memphis. So as a pastor, I began to realize, I was like, you know what? We need to open up a credit union. We're sending our members to banks. Credit union has less FDIC regulations, and we can get this popping.
Yep.
So I went to other pastors. I'm like, hey man, we can do this, because my thought process is this. My whole thought process is, I don't want to be ruled by, dominated by anybody. I'm here to rule and dominate and to change the game. That's my thought process. So I go to the pastors. I'm like, look, man, let's do this. We couldn't come together.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And part two, let's talk about that, because
Yeah.
I definitely
Yes.
want to talk
We
about
have
the
some
fact
thoughts.
that part of the reason that holds us back is we're always worried about who's gonna get the credit and how we
You
gonna
already
split
know.
the money.
The
So
question was,
Yeah.
who's gonna
yeah,
be on the
so we need to
who's the
we
president,
need
who's
part two, because that's why we can't move. I got a good friend of mine who we have these kind of conversations all the time about, hey, if we just had X amount of people that would be willing to put in a co-op, a certain amount, like what we could do, like we could literally generate several $1 million, leverage that, and we could
Just
do
in interest.
a lot.
Yeah.
We got enough black
Yeah.
millionaires and billionaires. I was listening to Don Peebles the other day. He's a billionaire real estate mogul. We got enough people just to put a couple of dollars in, and we can make some power moves. Speak to the camera and just close out. I'm going to give both of you just a chance to say what you need to say when we talk about education, DEI. But if you were speaking to someone right now just to give them a word of encouragement, what would you tell them?
I just want to say we actually are in a good time for us to come together and do what we need to do. And, it's never too late. And I think that right now, because we are in a bit of chaos, it's a great opportunity for us to refocus, repurpose, and move forward as a people.
I would say it's important in these chaotic times not to lose sight of hope, because this too shall pass. I know we all probably all grew up in a household here.
James
this
Cleveland,
too-
if you don't know.
this too shall pass, and we're going through it. But like Lisa said, this is a great opportunity for us to hunker down and do what we need to do so that we can get to where we need to go.
Don't sit on the sideline.
Don't be
Time
be
to
active.
it's time to get in the game.
And even then, when we say be active, everybody has a skill set. So you may not be able to offer dollars. You may not be able to do that, but you have a skill set. So for me, I may not be able to offer dollars, but I can help you rewrite your resume. I can help you practice on how to interview for a position. I can connect you with somebody. So utilize the network. If you don't have a network, start to work on one.
You know what? And I know, do you have like public information you can give to people that they can connect with your company or what you're doing? Can you give that information real quick? Go ahead.
Yeah, if they want to go to www.jbmstrategicpartners.com, and you can reach us through our website.
Okay. Well, ladies, without a doubt, I have thoroughly enjoy at this moment. This is when you're talking and it don't feel like you've been talking this long.
Right.
All right, so y'all saw them.
Yeah.
They promised me part two.
Will.
Part two.
It's
Part
coming.
2. Yeah.
All right, as we close, listen, I hope that you've been encouraged by what we've said today in the conversation. I just want to say to you, listen, I have no problem with, just like what Lisa said, we all scroll. There are times I'm scrolling, I have to tell myself, put the phone down. And I tell myself, put the phone down because you're just scrolling. What I'm saying to you is that when we're giving you information that can edify you, information that can change, and I understand you don't want to eat vegetables all the time. I get it. But what I'm saying is when you're getting information like this, take it and run with it. Take it and run with it. And I hope and pray that you just receive what's been said. They've given you, and their credentials speak to who they are. So in bringing them on, they don't want to bring anybody on, they're just talking. They have the credentials, they have the information behind it. So connect, and I just want you to know, get out the cage. I just feel something's happening. We're going to be a part of it, and I just want to be on the wave. Catch what's going on, get out the cage, and remember, you can do anything that you put your mind to. I promise you. God bless you. We'll see you next time.